Hello and welcome to the latest Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Q&A. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Debbie Johnson, who's head of Oworx, which is a new brand that's been launched by SCC. Debbie, good to see you. How are you?
Grand, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I suppose the best way to start off is tell us all about Oworx. What is it and what are your aims and ambitions?
Wow, it's a big question, lots of aims and ambitions. So Oworx is the public cloud brand for SCC. We've been around, I'd say, for about a year now, although we've only recently launched. So we've done a lot of kind of technical wizardry in the background to launch our product base, because it's not just based on services, it's based on tooling and things like that as well. I joined SCC a year ago to start building out Oworx, as I said, or 14 months ago, to start building out Oworx. And the initial ask was, come and build us a public cloud focused practice that is literally just laser focused on public cloud. And when we say public cloud, we're referring to AWS, Azure, and GCP. So we wanted highly technical individuals and highly tailored services that focused just on building and supporting that infrastructure.
Okay.
So initially we hadn't thought about having a brand, but as we dived in, it became really apparent that culture is massively important to me, and it's a different culture when you're working in public cloud. There's different processes. You've got to appeal to a different, a wider technical community, that kind of thing. And it just kind of grew into something that was so interesting and so big that Mike Swain was just, I want to put a brand on it. And that's when we then started to dive into the brand conversations around what do we call it, what do we want to be known for. And that's really, that's probably been our main focus for the first half of this year, I'd say, around building that brand.
And it's an incredibly strong brand. And obviously, for viewers, there'll be links where they'll be able to go online and to learn more about Oworx. But it's, it's a very bold and sort of fresh brand, which I suppose is that sort of link into, you're a new sort of entrant into the market, trying to carve out. Is that just how you need to speak to the potential audience?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we did a lot around kind of deciding the brand name and even down to the color scheme. We went, we must have taken, I'd say, about 4 or 5 months to come up with it, because there's a lot of different opinions in the room. We wanted to appeal to lots of different people. And also we wanted to see what our competitors were doing. So how do we stand out on a page? Just down to the logo, when you look at how many companies are operating now in the managed service space for public cloud, there's lots of them. And there's some really interesting logos there and colors. So even down to the color green, if you look at the logos of our competitors, no one's using green. We are, and it's the boldest green you can find, because we want to be really, really bold. And I think SCC have been really bold in, when you look at SCC's traditional competitors, they're not investing massively heavily in resources and, really kind of buying into this whole, let's have a separate public cloud practice. They're saying, let's see how much business we get, and then we'll see what we can deliver out of our existing organization. I was having an interesting chat yesterday with Gartner, and they said exactly the same. We're being very bold in our market by setting ourselves up as a brand new public cloud practice, because it is a new area for us.
And we love that. I mean, SCC, obviously, it's this sort of international company, but the bit we love is that it always kept that heart and soul in Birmingham, and very, very dynamic. And we've had a number of conversations in recent months with some of your colleagues there, and just it's amazing how diverse now the offering is. But it's great to hear, as you say, that obviously in this world of public cloud, they are being so bold. And I can see you've even got your staircase out behind you in Oworx Green. That's
Oworx Green. Painted it last week. That actually is not deliberate, but I'm now going to say it is.
That's love for the brand. So for the uninitiated, and I'll count myself in that, so you sort of outlined a little bit on public cloud, but so you see the world as there's public cloud offering, private cloud offering. Just give us a little sense of the differences there, because I say there's a lot of people that they get the concept of the cloud now, or you kind of go and see a data center and go, that's what people mean when they talk about the cloud. But how do you sort of differentiate it? And I guess who's your target market then with Oworx?
So in terms of private cloud, is something that's privately hosted. So it's not so, when we talk about public cloud, it's open to the internet, it's in many different regions. private cloud, we have a private cloud offering. It's hosted in our data center. But lots of customers are now kind of looking to the bigger public clouds in terms of scalability, being able to scale very quickly, you know, and really that kind of pay-as-you-go consumption model. So that's where we're playing at the moment. And in terms of our target market, that's a really, really hard question to answer. And the reason for that is you're not really looking at particular size of customer or a particular industry as such. You're more looking at the level of maturity with a customer. So at the moment, you know, we really like to work with customers that are just starting to have that kind of thought of everyone's moving to public cloud. I keep hearing about public cloud. Is it right for me? What, you know, how do I do it? I haven't got time to invest in all of those skills. I haven't got the money to invest in all of those skills. And I really want to explore what, you know, how and if I should make that transition. And I think that's where Oworx being part of SCC is very useful, because we're not just going to have a public cloud conversation. Whilst my group in Oworx only works on public cloud, when we do that initial kind of discovery piece with a customer, we'll be scanning their estate, looking at their applications. And if we don't think that some of their applications are fit for public cloud, or, you know, some of their data isn't appropriate to be hosted in public cloud, we're going to work with the wider SCC to look at our kind of private hosting options, and see how they might apply. I think that kind of answered the question.
No, it does. And what would be a typical sort of customer interaction and experience then? So somebody's watching this, and as you say, they're starting to think about public cloud, and they reach out to you or your team. And what's the, you know, how quickly are you able to sort of run through that assessment and either sort of move into a sort of a working relationship? How will that all sort of flow?
So fairly quickly, and what we do to start with, we do the discovery piece. And when we talk about discovery, it's not just technical discovery. So whilst we kind of deploy some agents, we go scan their existing estate to understand how their estate operates and how their applications operate. That's really important. But also there's a social aspect to public cloud, as in all of your processes have to be different or you lose the agility. Mm-hmm. So where you might have a traditional ITIL change process, you might have to actually become more agile and change that. And so we do this social discovery with our customers as well, where we get in there, we talk to the areas of the business, we understand all of their concerns, and then we kind of highlight the limitations that might prevent them having a really successful migration to the cloud. Okay. Because what we don't want to do is get customers in a kind of lift and shift where their cloud infrastructure looks exactly the same as their legacy infrastructure did on-prem, and they're then not getting any of the benefit because their organization can't move as quickly as you can within public cloud. There's lots of things like the billing mechanism in a company can't cope with the changing with the fluctuation in your costs in public cloud, because you pay for it all up front generally when you're doing on-prem, and sometimes their financial mechanism of raising a PO and paying an invoice just won't work with public cloud. So you have all of those sorts of conversations as well, the kind of social aspect. And once you then have that kind of overall view of how we'd recommend a customer migrates to the cloud, we then kind of say, right, you know, your migration plan could be 2 years, but let's identify some key workloads and just go, you know, let's start with those.
So it doesn't have to be all at once then. It can be, so you're building the sort of the cradle to grave process to sort of take you over in the right way to fit your business and your needs and your existing
That's
sort of infrastructure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of customers fail, and it's not just in public cloud. I think a lot of customers fail in large scale projects because they try and plan for perfection at the end of that project. And those goalposts move all the time. You know, I had 18 years at Aviva. I've seen a lot of this in terms of massive projects in big enterprise organizations. And the most successful are always those ones that just break it into bite-sized pieces and say, let's plan for the next 6 months. Then let's go again, then let's go again. It's much easier. I mean, we go down with my guys, my developers who develop our customer facing tooling. Our projects are 2 weeks. We do 2 week sprints. You know, we're very agile, and that just enables us to do feature release after feature release, and that tiny, rather than going, we want to change this massive thing. Yeah. And then trying to kind of, it slows you down actually.
Bite-sized chunks then. And I mean, how do you price it then? Again, if people are looking and just trying to get a feel, how do you sort of structure these contracts and relationships?
So there's different types of pricing. So we have for discovery, that's a kind of day rate. It's a for want of a better expression, price of materials. We price per project. Then we have our operating model. We price that as public cloud is priced. So public cloud essentially fluctuates. We have a percentage-based model, so we charge a percentage of your spend depending on what service level you're on.
Okay.
But we break it down. So if you are, if you're a customer that comes to us and says, I want a managed service, we're actually going to have a conversation and say, what levels of managed service do you need within your estate? You don't have to choose this big fat service level for your whole estate. You could have your development workloads on a lower service level because you don't need us monitoring those 24/7. You can pay a bit more to have your production workload that you really care about monitored 24/7 and have us doing incident response for that. And that's as far as the kind of service level goes. But then we do a consumption-based model in terms of making changes on your estate.
Yeah.
So rather than you hiring inexpensive contractors, you can say, I'd like to make this change. How much is that going to cost? And we'll say, that'll take about 3 hours. That's £91 an hour. What we actually do is track the work by minute. So you're only charged minute by minute, and we round up to the nearest hour at the end of the month. So we combine all of your kind of little hourly chunks that you've consumed, and we just round that up.
So it's very sort of customized, and I guess that way, best value as well, which is part of the proposal.
Yeah, and again, that's coming from a Viva experience. We used to have a change freeze throughout December. So why do I want to pay my managed service, fee in December when I'm changing nothing on my estate and the risk is very low? So, so I wanted to have something that was really flexible in terms of the kind of peaks and troughs of how customers, manage their infrastructure and make changes.
And Debbie, so you sort of said a lot of pre-work in this, but obviously launched then in the summer. How's it gone so far in the first few months of Oworx being out there in the world?
Yeah, really well. We're getting we've had a lot of conversations with Gartner because they're always really helpful in terms of kind of making sure that you're pitching yourself in the right way. We're actually, we are doing something that people want, so that's helped. So we've had quite a few conversations with those guys. In terms of the initial launch, we launched it internally with our sales team, and it was really interesting. Usually when we're not in a global pandemic, we would go to the sales kickoff and we'd have, 15 minutes on stage. We'd talk about it to all of our sales community, and then they go off and sell it. Well, that option wasn't available this year. So I had to kind of think about what we're going to do differently. So we ended up doing 18 hours of sales training in kind of 45-minute chunks throughout May. And it was really interesting to see how many leads we had in terms of customer conversations before those sessions, and they just went through the roof afterwards. So our customers want to hear about it. They're really interested in it. And, we're not finding it that hard when we're going in and starting to talk about the flexibility of the service, the fact that there's no real lock-in. So we don't have 2-year contracts with our customers. We have a 3-month rolling contract where you can upgrade and downgrade through the service. You can leave the service. So it's really flexible. And as soon as you start to have that conversation with customers, it starts to become very compelling for them.
That's what people are looking for, isn't it? And I suppose that's been the case anyway, but then you layer on sort of the impact of COVID. And I think flexibility is becoming even more important right now because the amount of uncertainty that people are living with and trying to work in the short and medium term, maybe more. I guess if you can offer that, then I can see why it's very attractive. I mean, did the pandemic bring other challenges then outside of having to do all those sort of chunks of sales training? Did it delay the launch at all, Debbie, or not really?
No, we refused to delay it. That we'd put so much hard work into it, and my whole team, everybody who works within Oworx is so passionate about it. We just said, let's just work out how we do it differently. Let's not delay. We're so keen to bring customers in and start working with people. There was no way we were going to take no for an answer. So we did that. That's where this my poor team were exhausted at the end of May. That's where the sales training came from, because we wanted to drive those conversations. And then there was the other challenge in terms of reduced spending. So we had some customers that were halfway down the path to signing, and then COVID hit, and they, lots of projects went on pause. So we did all sorts of things. We offered free cloud assessments. to be able to, you know, give customers a view of how we could save them, make immediate savings for them in the current situation. Those conversations have now developed into managed service conversations. Now people are starting to kind of pick up. And also we wanted, you know, where we'd usually be out at the AWS conference and things like that, we'd have a stand there, we'd be talking to customers. Again, not an option. So we've run some virtual sessions with our customers. The biggest one is next week, actually. It's called Oworx Live. And it will be a fully virtual session. We've got cheese and wine tasting as part of it. So it's quite an interactive session where we talk about our services and we also get to enjoy some cheese and wine. So we've just gone out and worked out ways of appealing to people, because I've been to a few conferences, and I'm sure you'd have been the same, where it's a bit grueling and it's really hard to not look at your emails or check your messages. And I was trying to think of ways that we could present Oworx Live and keep everyone engaged. Yeah. And for me, the cheese and wine just made sense. So you get cheese and wine, we talk a bit about that. Then I'm going to present to you while you're enjoying that. Then we're going to do some more cheese and wine, a bit more presenting. And we've broken it down into these chunks. So people will be concentrating on what we're saying while having a drink. And
that's clever. Now, do you provide the cheese and wine, or do you have to provide your own?
No, we send it. Yeah, we send it.
Oh, fantastic.
Scarily, not really. It's very nice cheese and wine.
And so, Debbie, I mean, if people who are watching want to find out more, then what would you say, what's the best route to go down? Is it to go online, have a look at the website, or to speak to yourself and your team, and we'll provide contact details, obviously, with the video?
Yeah. On the website, there is a contact us button that comes straight through to my guys anyway. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to receive a message on LinkedIn. So, you know, you can reach out to me that way. There's Richard Locke. He's my counterpart. He's in sales. So he'd also be happy to have a LinkedIn conversation if that's how people want to contact us. But we'll put all the contact details in here as well. So all of our email details and things.
Debbie, well, look, thank you very much for joining us. And thanks for sort of, you know, taking the time to outline all that Oworx is doing and you know, how you brought this to market. Congratulations as well on such a sort of successful launch. Enjoy the cheese and wine. Making me feel peckish now. Yeah, and thank you once again. Thank you, Debbie.
No worries, thanks.